You are listening to the California Island Podcast, recorded over a state prison telephone and available to you for free at Pensideout.
On December 25th, 1981, I was 17 years of age. Unknowing at the time, my entire life would completely change. I went to the home of an associate named David on the 25th of December, 1981, and shortly thereafter, two older men showed up, who also were friends of my associate David. The four of us began to drink alcohol for some time, until at one point, one of the mutual associates blurted out, "Let's go rob somebody." We all agreed, in which David went to his...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
In which David went to his backyard and came back with a briefcase which had guns inside of it. That night we left in what turned out to be a stolen Mustang. After driving for approximately 45 minutes on the freeway, David, who was driving the vehicle, stated that we needed gas. At this point, there had been no mention of who or what we would be robbing. We soon found an open gas station in which David pulled into the station to put gas into the car. We immediately noticed that there was another vehicle at the gas station, putting gasoline into their vehicle. One of the other men accompanying David and I stated, "We are going to rob them." That is, the couple who was getting gas. As soon as the soon-to-be victims left the gas station, we followed them until they arrived at a residence. It was at this time that one of David's other companions directed me and the party he came with to rob the unsuspecting two parties of everything, once the vehicle had come to a stop. However, David said, "No, we are going to take the vehicle also," and then stated, "Let's move them away from their residence so that they cannot call the police." One of David's acquaintances and I approached the vehicle. I approached the passenger side, and the other person approached the driver's side of the vehicle, as the two occupants were starting to unload the vehicle. I asked if I could use the phone as a means to distract the two, and as I got closer, I pulled out my weapon and ordered the female to get back into the vehicle. She complied, while the male that accompanied the female was ordered by the accomplice to get into the Mustang. As the woman slid back into the vehicle, I entered alongside her and directed her to drive, as the accomplice was also getting into the vehicle. The female drove the vehicle until she blew through a stop sign. At this time, I ordered her to pull over to the side of the road, in which the accomplice began to drive while the female was in the middle. The driver mentioned taking the vehicle to a specific location in which I had never been, but I heard that things went on in that area, such as drug dealings, rape, murder, and various other crimes. En route to our destination, I began to fondle the female and directed her to perform oral sex. I didn't like it, which I then hit her with the weapon, snatched her ring off, and threw it on the dashboard of the vehicle. Upon reaching our destination, with the Mustang following close behind, I was directed to watch the male while all three of the accomplices took the female and sexually assaulted her. The assault occurred while I had the other victim lying down behind a Mustang. I also watched as the other three men robbed the victims by taking their bags of gifts. I then heard David yell, "Let's go." Approximately 2 weeks after the event, we were arrested. The first 10 years of my incarceration, I was overwhelmed with grief, regret, and made numerous attempts to accept what I had done. I felt awful on the inside while still trying to meet the approval of others. Sometime around 1991, I began to internalize my actions, focus more deeply as to why I did the crime, and I evaluated all of my past actions, both good and bad. I had to learn from others that the feelings I was experiencing centered around remorse, especially having awful and shameful memories replay in my mind, causing me to wonder how I could stray so far from the values of my family. It was at this point I began to ask myself, why would you hurt another human being? What had turned me into the evil, uncaring person that I had became at age 14. These personal questions caused me to think deeper about my upbringing. The most logical and probable answer came when I reflected on my personal having been sexually assaulted when I was 8 years old by my cousin, who was my babysitter. This abuse went on for a year, and when I told my mother, she did not believe me. Knowing in my heart of hearts that my being abused contributed to my actions on December 25th, 1981, caused me to become angry. Also, I had developed resentment towards my mom, for not believing me, which led me to feel helpless. In discovering these deep conscious feelings led me to realize that I cannot allow my personal abuse to justify the actions leading to my conviction. For this, I learned to take full responsibility, which required me to learn further what remorse looked like in action. I was conflicted with two opposing emotions. One, I discovered the truth in that people who have been hurt often transfer their pain towards others. I say this as, at the time of the crime, a part of me wanted power and control, just as my abuser had power and control over me. Two, I did not feel any power nor control, but shame and embarrassment. This reality led me to seek therapy for my child abuse. My thought process began to change in how I saw life. This also guided me on a course of seeking education. To date, I have taken over 200 self-help classes. I attend AA, NA meetings. In acknowledging my serious problem, addressing my problem by taking therapy and self-help educational courses, and having served more than 39 years of my life incarcerated from age 17 to 56, how long is justice? I dare to ask, as I know people who have served 20, 28, and 29 years who actually killed someone. In one case, it was a double murder, and they are at home. I have killed no one. For the past 10 years, I have yearned to give back to the community by talking to youth about crime prevention and how so very easy it is to throw away one's life. Helping youth will also serve as a reminder to myself, allowing me to never forget what I did as a child. Moving forward, and having satisfied the necessary criteria to be granted parole, I was in fact granted parole in November 2019. However, Governor Gavin Newsom requested that my case be reviewed by an en banc review board. There were two issues that the governor had concerns with. In attending the en banc hearing, neither of the issues were addressed by the board, and I was blindsided by having a new issue raised that had no relevancy to Governor Newsom's request. Ultimately, the parole board decision was reversed. Here, I had gone before the Board of Parole hearings 10 times, leading to a grant of parole, only to then have my parole date taken away, in which the board relied on false information, creating a reverse tragedy. Especially after spending 39 years incarcerated, working ardently on my impulsivity, my inability to understand the consequences of my actions, my willingness to control others, and my weakness to peer pressure. In closing, having fulfilled the requirements of learning about all of my triggers, that is, alcoholism, sexual deviances, character defects, and the weakness of my thought processes, only to be made to address a matter that is not only irrelevant to who I am, but also false, cannot be considered nothing less than a reverse tragedy. So I again ask, how long is justice?
Thank you for listening to the California Island Podcast, recorded and produced on the campus of San Diego State University.